Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to the Alpha for Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As today, we forge ahead and try to piece together what happened to our poor Forge world. We've got some general ideas, but we'll see what comes down the line. Corrupted servitors. Interesting. You guys going to attack me, or... Okay. The servitors before you almost appear to be in the middle of performing some elaborate and confusing dance. In strange poses, they rock back and forth with their hands bent in a peculiar fashion. Upon your approach, one of the servitors jerks, trying to turn in your direction. The rest immediately repeat the motion. The strange scene is complemented by a grating sound. Dull clicks just at the edge of your hearing, coming from an unknown source. Juliet glances at the servitors and looks away. Many of the customs of the Monkey are terrible, but some are more insane and disgusting than the rest. Yeah, I can't really say I disagree with you on that. Servitors are pretty gross. But, for the sake of completion, what do you find grossest about this custom? You have reduced your kin to the level of mechanisms. You love mechanisms, do you not? You strive to make everything empty, cold, convenient. Juliet cringes. Oh boy. I mean, look, I know servitors are supposed to be part of this setting, but... as far as the nightmares of the Warhammer 40k universe go, this is definitely one of the worst. I can't disagree. Were it in my power to change it, I would. But I cannot. Juliet stares at you with amazement, tilting her head to the side like a bird. I did not expect such words from you. You are... interesting, Monkey. Yes, I get that a lot. Now, let's see what we're dealing with here. Based on a cursory inspection, you conclude the servitors were designed for precision work on an assembly line, possibly circuit production. The number of high-quality, expensive augments in their body greatly exceeds basic standards. The servitor's hand moves. It is slowly reaching towards you. Yeah, probably best to avoid that. Gently and swiftly, you step away from the servitor. It stretches out its hand as if trying blindly to touch you in the space that you've already left, and goes still once more. It looks like its brain is incapable of quickly processing changes in its surroundings. Soon enough, you locate the source of the clicking. On the back of one of the servitors, a tumor oozing with murky ichor is growing straight through the augments. The relays coated in inflamed tissue are blocked, hence the reason for the persistent clicking. A mutation in a servitor? Tech priests typically reject the use of flawed soft tissue for their constructs. Perhaps something has caused this aggressive growth. And quite recently. Hello? Can you hear me? The closest servitor twitches, and the others follow suit. It is clear that the entire group is connected by a single machine spirit, and something has caused this program to stop working. One of the servitors must have a faulty cogitator or some other augment, and this breakdown ended up affecting the whole group. Oh, and now we have another option. A much safer option. We'll go with that one. You carefully examine the servitor until you eventually spot the cover in its chest. After unscrewing and removing the plate, you discover the wires for the failed augmetic parts and cut them. As if on cue, the servitors stop moving, lower their hands, and turn to you. Crew 24, second lane of the Manufactorum. Commencing work. Please voice your request. The servitor addressing you is looking past you, and the voice is coming out of the vox built into its throat. Well, on the one hand, I am curious what kind of goodies these guys could whip up for me, but on the other hand, they're also sad and gross, so... Deactivate. Your service is done. And there they go. Looks like we didn't really get much out of that, aside from XP. But I'm fine with that. The Cogitator's panel has dozens of breakers, buttons, handles, switches, and other control mechanisms. You discover the local cybercrypt with data collected by other previous operators, or the machine spirit itself. Using your access, you study the archives stored on this cogitator.
Praise be to the Omnissiah, whose might and power transforms dead metal to make manifest the holy visions of the machine god. The new protocols received at the Synod from the great fabricator have been executed, despite those who shuddered at the thought of changing a standard procedure. Embolden your hearts, those whose inner weakness breeds errors in personal calculations. For the fabricator is the conductor of the higher will, and the wisest among us.
Not crazy about where this is going, but continue.
Today at the Supreme Assembly, the fabricator unsealed the vaults of the sacred designs and committed those deemed redundant or heretical to purifying disposal. Today, dozens of standard procedures were lost, to be replaced by new ones, which the fabricator will deliver to those who demonstrate the greatest devotion to serving the truth. But the databanks contain no notion of truth. Could there have been, may the all-knowing one, the gracious keeper, forgive me, an error in the fabricator's calculations? And he meant to say, serving the quest for knowledge?
Right. Your knowledge of machine spirits is sufficient to trick the system and subdue it to your will. A false query, a crafty manipulation of control, and you finally get what you want. Access to the third vial.
The instrumental terminals have already been replaced, and the material delivery systems are being prepared for divine transformation. The execution of the new procedure has been delayed, for there are some in our ranks who doubt the words of the fabricator and his votaries, and there are some who are not susceptible to the enhancement protocol that carries our tech brethren to enlightenment. May the deliverers of fate be merciful to them. Inaction is death, and I must be returning to our great work. Praise be to the truth that will reveal the path to the knowledge shrouded in darkness.
Interesting. Okay. What about the other console? What have we got on that one? Okay. Same logs, just with a different intro. The vast data repositories contain millions of strings related to receiving raw materials for processing, shipping processed metals, and schedules for sacred rituals to be performed over the machines coming off of the production line. The Manufactorum once operated like one gargantuan, well-oiled mechanism. The last record is from 2 months ago. Right, okay, so both machines gave us access to the same files, but that other one did also give us data about when they stopped updating the logs properly, which was 2 months ago. So between the two, it sounds like our problem goes back to the fabricator, the great fabricator. Presumably, whoever's in charge of this place, Governor Gaprak, perhaps? Unless the fabricator and the governor are two separate people. But whoever's behind this, they've officially been running this place for at least 2 months now. Thousands and thousands of voices crying out for salvation, in hope, with wild promises. Their pain is your reward, interrogator. I will pretend I did not hear your last words, witch. Yeah, that's probably for the best. Thank you, Heinrichs. The massive cogwheel is constantly pushing along the colossal gear system, which fades into the haze. You hear dull thuds from within the thick metal, as if some process, endlessly pounding, runs in the depths of these pipes. That looks to be a jump point, perhaps? Oh, I see. Okay, we've got a lift off to our right. That might be a quick way back down. No interaction on the consoles, though. That might be a shortcut back down from wherever we're supposed to get to eventually. That is something we've seen a bit of in some of the other maps. You know, you have a long circuitous route to get up to a boss encounter, and then a quick shortcut to get back out. And that would provide us a more physical means of getting back down if, for whatever reason, we can't reactivate this elevator, which I assume would take a logic or tech skill check. Oh, hi there. All right, what do you got for me, buddy? The lumps all over the tech priest's figure, wrapped in a disheveled red robe, hint at hidden mechanisms implanted in his body. You see his face under the archaic respirator implant, haggard and sickly. I. A click, a clank, a barely audible hiss, and only then the tech priest Vox finishes the word. Identification.
Request denied.
Pascal turns to you, his visor gleaming crimson.
Registering anomalous behavior within this servant's organics and an invalid no-sphere response. This unit is compromised.
Gosh, you think? Carefully, you study the robe-clad figure. A black hem of necrosis spreads out from around the tech priest's implants. For some reason, his body seems to reject the true flesh. A moment later, you recognize the dominant smell in the bouquet of scents permeating the air around the tech priest. The stench of rotting meat. Oh, delightful. Whew. This guy smells worse than a grox fermented in spent promethium. But he tastes even worse than that.
Okay, I suppose there's no accounting for taste.
Pascal's Vox hisses with a hint of surprise.
Consumption of flesh of members of the Adeptus Mechanicus is not recommended, irrespective of their smell or compromised state.
Yeah, what he said. So, my pungent friend, who are you? The tech priest clicks his relay. Magos Custos of the Machine Sanctum, Tier 2-0. Identification. Yes, we'll get to that in just a moment. Tell me, my friend, what is occurring on this planet? Why have I not been able to contact Governor Gaprak? Why were hostile ships guarding this planet's orbit? Denied. The irregularity demands execution of Protocol 3924 in accordance with the Fabricator's decree. I honestly can't imagine anything good will come from actually cooperating with that request. Yes, executions. There's a thought. Why don't you take me to this fabricator of yours? And there'll be executions aplenty. Anticipated process disrupted. Execution of disposal protocol recommended. Well, darn. I guess the executions start early. The tech priest draws his weapon, and as his robes open, your senses are hit by a fetid wave of rot. Ah, so I was half right.
Show them no mercy.
This elevator must be the one that leads where we need to go. But now we've been detoured to a more circuitous route. Maybe if we'd kept talking, we would have seen some other way to keep the main route open. But it's fine. I was jonesing for a fight anyway. Not to mention, of course, we want to explore this entire place thoroughly. Try executing this!
Another clean strike.
Okay, well, let's try that again. Oh, good. They also explode. Guys, I'm gonna need you over here. No, we'll hold. I think we've got this. One thing we know from past fights is that servitors, while tough, are very slow and lumbering. So that should give us ample opportunity to finish them off before they can actually reach us. Heretech. Cute. Ow. Wow, that actually hurt. Finish off another servitor. Nice. That's right, son. You just got served. Wow. I would say that was awful even for me. Anyway, back to killing. Let's get Bulwark up.
Me. If you insist, Lord Captain.
And Yurliette's up next. We'll have her take out that last servitor. Oh, sorry, right, there's two left. And prep for next round.
I am not your Xenos pet monkey.
Wow, nice work, guys. And I don't like that. Okay, we need to free up Pascal.
Naturally. Let's see to it.
And that'll do it. Nicely done.
For the throne's glory.
No luck on the follow-through, but we've got him pinned. Which means Pascal is now free to gently clear our back line. Oop, slightly too far. Not enough AP left for precision shot. That's fine. We've got like 5 other people going before this guy does. Alright, let's take out that Magos. One point-blank burst to do the trick.
Not a problem.
Oh, wow, he almost completely shrugged that off. Some sort of adaptive defense?
Suits my purpose. All too easy.
Oh, wow, yeah. He's all armored up now. We cannot put a dent in him.
Absolutely not. Nothing I can't do.
Come on.
Watch and learn.
Oh, my goodness. I was really hoping we were outside of that blast radius. My goodness.
Suits my purposes.
And everything we've got left into this guy.
Another clean strike.
For all the good that did us, right? Okay, so completely immune to physical damage, but how do you fare against psychic damage?
But of course.
There we go.
Anything is.
Okay, so in theory, Heinrich should be able to finish him off easy with his Force Sword. I suppose we should try some other damage types. How about lasers? Alright, completely immune to lasers. Noted. Yeah, so he's got like an adaptive defense thing going on. The more you hit him, the more it stacks. And then I assume it clears once his turn comes back around.
Isn't this a job for the serfs?
Which does mean that Heinrichs will be the one to finish him off. At least, in theory.
I won't go down easy.
And you're done. Not quite enough.
But of course, Lord Captain.
Pascal, you want to take a swing at this? Oh, wow. He's already rocking pretty hefty damage resistance there. Okay, well, I mean, we'll try the Splinter Cannon again. And if that doesn't work, we've got Adira.
Running binary override.
Already done. Suits my purposes.
Yeah, see, only the first shot actually got through. Everything after that was completely negated, so he's definitely got a stacking reactive defense. But only to physical damage. Not the best first contact with this world's inhabitants. I hope we will find someone more able to hold a conversation, willingly or not. Governor Goprak, perhaps. Omniscient X. Can we even use that? Nope. That requires cybernetic components, so we are completely incompatible, except for possibly Pascal, who it turns out already has one. Yep, that makes sense. I imagine we can pack that as a tech good. And yes, it looks like we are now headed this way, which means we likely have to find some way to access that other route to get to where we need to be. Obvious signs of chaos infestation. We got faces on the floor, we've got fleshy tumors, we've got purple torches. No obvious way down there, but it does look like there's a way around. Oh, that pipe. Okay. Okay. Oh. Well, that was way easier than I thought it would be. I really thought they would have us jump through some hoops. That we'd have to track down some sort of code or techno-doodad or something. I'm almost disappointed. Okay, well, obviously we're still going to poke around up here. We're already here. Might as well see what else there is to see. Let's maybe move out from beneath the giant vat of molten metal. Take that. There was someone here. It's a good place to hide, or to set up another ambush. Blood mixed with machine oil is barely visible on the dark floor.
I won't tolerate weakness.
Ow. Right, precision movement is not this game's strong point, so hazard evasion is problematic.
It's about time.
Look at this mark. Someone was dragged. No, someone walked in our direction very recently. But we didn't see anyone. Oh, and there's our survivor, right over there.
Excellence matters.
Dark patches can be seen on the floor. They're smudged, as though someone walked through them on the way to the footbridge. So we've got a Lex mechanic. Plus some loot. Don't mind me, buddy. Just having a quick peek. Oh, there's our pipe. Yeah, that's how we get to the agility check. Well, let's have a chat with our new friend here. See what his deal is. Oh, that's annoying. A small, heavily augmented man in a filthy, tattered robe stands before you. As you approach, he hesitantly looks up at you, his eyes filled with horror. A portable inscriber with a keyboard hangs from the straps at his front, and you can see his detached cerebral cogitator peeking out from under his hood. Calm yourself, friend. You have nothing to fear from us. Deus Mechanicus! The tech priest decides to take a better look at you, after which he lets out a ragged breath and manages to subdue his shaking.
He heard my prayers. I thought I was alone in a kingdom of madness and depravity. Please, save me.
Tell us who you are, and what happened to you.
I am Manufacturer Lex Mechanic Zeta 86. I perform the rituals for the machine spirits of Foundry 95. Up until the brothers started going mad. Priests devoted to the Omnissiah suddenly started praising the dawn of something or other. They stopped the belts, and then they desecrated the visages of the sacred machines with unholy symbols. Some of them resisted. The others grabbed them, tied them up, and then they turned their implants to heresy. I saw the madmen, my former tech brethren, deliberately connect those poor souls to corrupted cogitators. I watched as they were infected with the scrap code.
And did nothing to stop them. I am recording a violation of the commandment of thine own forge be a true sentinel. Apostate Zeta 86, your access is hereby revoked. Proceed with your report.
The icy rumble coming from Pascal's Vox causes the Lex Mechanic to lower his head in fear and contrition. Yes, so... how did you manage to avoid the same fate that befell your brethren?
I didn't avoid it. They performed the same procedure on me. I felt the touch of unholy code. I allowed it to control me. I abandoned my sacred post and followed one of the traitors, serving his will and gathering all the data for his blasphemous experiments. I was driven by an unholy impulse coming from the depths of my auxiliary cogitator, where the code had lodged itself. Before I found a way to throw off the compulsion, I witnessed horrifying heresy. The extraction of true flesh and its decomposition on altars. Perverse procedures that resulted in heretical abominations. I even accompanied a fallen Magos to the fabricator himself, and attended the unholy mass he led personally. It was a wicked ritual full of willful deviations and blatant inaccuracies, all to create an ungodly monster in the name of the final dawn.
If this is true, then how did you escape the same fate that befell your companions? The Lex Mechanic gestures at the wires and connectors spilling out from under his hood.
Praise the gifts of the Omnissiah. I managed to disconnect my external cogitator, which I used for primary data processing. The machine is corrupted. The scrap code is locked inside it, like a beast in a cage. Anyone who tries to look inside will fall victim to the heretical program. My primitive brain has been marked by corruption. I still see their silhouettes, hear their interference. I sense the malfunctions in my augmetics. But I was still saved from the great sacrifice. Oh, blessed are the workings of the Omnissiah and his benediction that shelters the weak from evil.
Heinrichs tenses ever so slightly at the Lex Mechanic's words. You see his hand casually stray to the handle of his weapon. But the interrogator is in no hurry to act. You mentioned a monster. Is it a weapon?
No, not those constructs that are melted down in furnaces and sent into the depths of the manufactorum. It is some kind of semblance of a cogitator, a nightmarish parody of a sacred machine, powered not by the Omnissiah's grace, but by the unholy spirit and life force of the unfortunates imprisoned on the lower levels.
So like that forge beast we fought then, which also came from Kiava Gamma.
I don't know much, except that the fabricator saw that machine as special. It was special to him and to the crazies who defiled the Omnissiah's abode with their obscene blasphemy. For the final ritual, he even called upon one of the Astartes heretics who arrived at the manufactorum after the start of the uprisings. He did something terrible, and only after that were they able to switch the machine on. It is a true abomination. Even standing near it is unbearable. I believe that even those who have been deprived of the Omnissiah's grace still feel its influence on them. Its monstrous power utilized for unholy computations and chaotic calculations. Whatever that cogitator might spew out at the end of its cycle, no righteous soul should accept its heinous offering.
Yes, I see. What else can you tell me about how your corrupted kin behaved?
Like the grace of the Omnissiah had left them entirely, replacing free thought and progress with blackest corruption. I witnessed them desecrating structures blessed by the Fabricator himself. Though, what do the blessings of that rotten traitor count for now? Like men possessed, they set upon the sacred instruments and assembled shells and nodes that didn't match any diagram or blueprint I'd ever seen. Sacrilege.
And you mentioned prisoners on the lower levels?
Yes, the lay servants of the main units. They live in isolated segments under the sacred machine halls. I heard they were locked in there after the takeover. Then my crazed brethren changed the systems for disposing of slag waste, and covered the machines in cursed symbols.
The Lex mechanic hesitates.
After they started the cogitator, they dragged the survivors out of the segments under the machine halls. Well, what the survivors had turned into.
You demonstrate exceptional powers of observation and recall for someone who just happened to survive. I mean, he already admitted he was forced to participate.
I'm a Lex mechanic. Gathering data is the purpose of my existence. That's even what they used me for.
He trails off, belatedly understanding the subtext to the interrogator's words.
They used me against my will. The scrap code turns everyone into their slave. Before I rid myself of the cogitator, I was forced to serve alongside those who perpetrated those atrocities and witnessed their obscenities.
Heinrichs? Thoughts? The interrogator tilts his head. Servant of the Omnissiah, I must know more. About the Final Dawn, the Fabricator, his mass, and about this machine as well.
I could give you the coordinates, but...
The Lex mechanic drops his head.
Even though I was present for many blasphemies committed by those heretics, all the details that were captured and processed by my true flesh are in the augmetic that was corrupted by the scrap code. I am convinced that if I hadn't fought off that foreign compulsion in time, I would have been doomed. The corruption would have spread to my biological cogitator as well.
The Lex mechanic taps a finger on the device hanging from his ear on several wires.
I swear that no devout tech priest should come into contact with what's hidden on that once sacred device.
Okay, I think we see where this is going. Heinrichs' expression shifts as he stares intently at the disconnected implant and the still intact connectors protruding from under the Lex mechanic's collar. The corner of his mouth twitches involuntarily. Tell me, is there any way we can access those files without plugging it back into your head? The Lex mechanic shakes his head in reproach.
Even if the very idea of exposing a holy machine to the scrap code wasn't profane in itself, my augmetics are not universally compatible. They cannot be connected to another machine spirit. They were created to interact with the system of my true flesh, to innervate my compulsor unit and output data via the inscriber. Once I am safe, I swear that I will immediately perform a cleansing rite and destroy...
Right, which would also destroy the data. In other words, there is only one way to extract the data stored in the cogitator. Oh boy, another one of these decisions. So we have potentially useful data. But in order to get it, we would essentially need to condemn this poor guy to a fate worse than death. Which, you know, given the setting, would probably be deemed acceptable, but I'm personally not crazy about using people like that. And I mean, I've As per usual, as is my wont, I have been playing our rogue trader, RetconRaider, as a bit of a softie. Heinrichs? What are you talking about? If we connect the cogitator to the augmetic system, the Lex Mechanic will serve as a conduit for transmitting the data. We will learn the details, even if they are incomplete, of the things he saw and heard, but is now unable to recall. The Lex Mechanic, who's been listening to your discussion in puzzlement, finally understands what is going to happen to him, and he begins to back away in fear. No, anything but that. I'll die. No, it'll be worse than that. I'll succumb to the corruption. I'm begging you, please. I'd rather be burned as a heretic than have the scrap code in my biological cogitator. At these words, Heinrichs pauses for a fraction of a second, almost as if he is reconsidering.
In failing to offer any resistance against the enemies of the Omnissiah, Unit Zeta 86 lost the grace of his machine rank and was recategorized as a resource of the Manufactorum. The defilement and torment of said resources, if committed to advance the struggle against heresy, will not be deemed a sin or malefaction against a living soul. Upon expiry of the unit's utility, disposal is recommended.
Good to know. Thanks, Pascal. But, I'm thinking we might take this in a slightly different direction. I mean, look, I get the importance of having that information, but maybe in the full game, maybe we'll play someone who's a bit less soft-hearted. I mean, ultimately, again, that's something I think I'll leave up to a vote for the Raiders. They can determine how exactly our launch trader behaves. But for now, I'm already into this whole soft-hearted trader who treats people like people instead of as resources to be exploited, so we might as well see that through. For better or worse. Heinrich, stop. There's no guarantee that data would even be useful. Leave the poor man alone. We need to know where the cogitator is, even if the heretics' conversations are unimportant. I must know why the machine was so valuable to them. I'll tell you. The Lex Mechanic rummages in his ragged clothes until he produces a scrap of parchment. A different augmetic is responsible for my muscle memory. It has a data storage, too. I remember where I walked and what I pressed with my fingers. Here are the coordinates. And the code. It's probably the code to the bay. He scratches out the numbers with his fingernail and passes the parchment to Heinrichs. Heinrichs' eyes bore into the smaller man's. At last, having reached some conclusion, he turns his gaze to you. He is a subject of your world, rogue trader. It is for you to decide his fate. Thank goodness for that. I mean, I suppose there is still the chance he's corrupted regardless, but we took in that other guy, the tainted navigator and his guards. Might as well go all in. He'll be taken to my ship. After the cleansing rites, I'll find a use for him. The Lex Mechanic is given the shuttle coordinates and hurries away. Heinrichs watches him go, then looks to you. Excessive kindness, rogue trader, gets good people into trouble. Let's hope that the corruption only affected the disconnected augmetic, and not his soul. Come on, we need to find this cogitator. Wow, okay, sure. Gotta say, Heinrichs is a lot more reasonable than I really imagined he'd be. And I know I've said that before, but he continues to surprise me. Honestly, I feel like he might be one of my favorite characters in our party, thus far. Though Cassie's up there too. And I do like Juliet.
This explorer is blessed with multifunctionality.
Pascal's fun, but mostly just because I like his voice. +10 to ballistics, wow. Obviously an ideal fit for anyone who's gun-centric, which does include our main. Though I believe we already have very similar gear on Ret. Recoil compensation, that's a much better fit for Ret. How about Yurliet? Oh, yes, that works. Plus 10 to ballistics is more practical for our primary sniper. We barely use grenades anyway. I'll toss the Grenadier's gloves to Argenta or Haydari. And I think that might be it. We saw some other things down below, but nothing we can actually reach yet. Yeah, see? Like this, we have to set that ladder up and then we'll have access to that lower platform. But that's clearly something we can't do from here. Okay. Let's go hit this agility check. If nothing else, that's free XP.
Scorn the pain.
Unless we flubbed the check, which we did, so. Anyway, I feel like that brings us to a pretty good stopping point. We're just past time, and although I was hoping we'd get more fights, we still got a fair bit done. We had one decent fight, and then we also had a whole bunch of exposition and lore events, which does go a long way towards helping us figure out what's going on here, not to mention the XP and the other associated rewards. So yeah, we'll hit the pause button for now. I'll make sure we are prepared to proceed, and we'll pick up here next time. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Revenant, Alois, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, Theory V23, EgonAlter, Emile, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Rowan Church, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.